Kalispera, race fans. This is Dobbs Davis speaking to you again from the AEGEAN 600. We're in day 3 of this race, and we're going to start off our analysis program today with our friends with the YB tracker. This is the page that opens up when you launch this from the home page or the tracker page from the AEGEAN 600 website. First off, I'll close these windows just to make the race course a little more available and visible. As you can see from all the tracks, the boats are well along their way. I think just about everybody is on the second half of the race course now. But more significantly, we have a finisher. Here, the guys on Atlanta 2 rolled across the finish line at Cape Sunyo today at about 6 minutes inside exactly 3 days. So I think the official time was 71 hours, 55 minutes, something like that. And they're tied up here in the lovely Olympic Marine facility. And they had some interesting issues during the race. They didn't have their power winch system work. So we learned that everything they did was with a little extra effort, because they don't have a pedestal system on this boat that's 70 feet long, and it has a 30-meter tall mast. So the corners were not too friendly for them. Everything had to be done manually and using methods that are normally much easier for them. So the corners are probably quite a challenge. Nonetheless, they sailed well. Francesco De Angelis is the skipper. He said we really like this race, so that's all encouraging news for the organizers here to have world-class sailors say that they like the race. I wanted to show something a bit related to that, just a little bit of a lesson on how sophisticated race boats that have multiple sail options oftentimes make the approach. Now, as you can see, the wind here depicted now is not a lot different than what it was this afternoon. Out in here, closer to the center of the Aegean, 25 to 30 knots of wind. The guys in Atalante said they had a maximum of about 28 knots of wind they saw. So quite windy conditions out here in Mykonos. And rolling across in a reach here, the choice of sail is obviously going to depend on the wind speed and the wind direction. And with these guys, they said they even reefed once, which was interesting. So quite fresh conditions. And then as they get closer to the coast, here at the Attican coast, the wind gets a little lighter, dies off, and in this case goes aft. But I wanted to show something in the track here that indicates what I think are sail selection choices. In rounding here, you'd think on a reach they'd just go on straight lines, and the curvature of this this heading here, and keep in mind the scale, 3 miles at that time in this leg of the course, they're probably going 10, 11 knots. I think they were. I think they said their top speeds were around 13 or 14 knots. It's not a planing boat. It's a big boat, and it's a carbon boat. But it is kind of a cruiser racer, so it's not particularly light like a TP52. They wouldn't get up and start planing. So, but nonetheless, they go fast and faster wind. And I saw this kink in their curve here, and this to me indicates that they instead of going in a straight line from here to here, they probably had a hole in their sail inventory where they really just didn't have the right sail to sail at that exact angle on that course. So they probably kept what they had at a constant true wind and apparent wind angle, and then set a spinnaker at that kink to bear off to get around this island here. So this is an indication of how even without tacking or jibing, you can get kinks in a boat's track related to their sail selection. While we're at this scale and in this part of the race course, the next boat that is lined up to finish sometime, well, let's see, it's going 11 knots. We think this will be probably around sunset sometime. They've got 20 miles to go at 11 knots. That if you do the math quickly, is 2 hours away. It's 18:30 local time. They'll slow down, of course, as they get closer to the coast. It's not as windy over here as it is here. However, if they have the right sail selection, maybe they'll go less distance than the guys in Atalanta did and be able to cut the corner with a better sail. I'm not familiar with what's in their inventory, but these are the sorts of decisions that the navigators and the strategists, tacticians, sail trimmers all need to make as a team. What do we have and what's going to be the best for that leg and that angle? And these sorts of decisions have been made throughout this race. Speaking with Francesco De Angelis, the skipper of Atalanta 2, he really liked this race course, but he said it was really a challenge for decisions precisely like this. All the legs, all the different angles of wind, changes throughout the race meant that they had to make many, many decisions, and it was always an interesting challenge. But he did really like the race. Now, going back a bit, we can see a quite strong breeze out here in Mykonos, and a big gap here between the Optimum 3 guys, which is a FAR 52, pretty fast carbon boat, to these two guys back here. Now, they've just gotten around the corner and are heading on that long reach. It looks like it's going to be close reaching for a while, and then as they get further out in the middle, if we look forward in time, I think this wind's going to hold. This is 8 o'clock tonight. It's still orange in here, and even a little later, it goes a little lighter, but it's still going to be in the probably breeze in the teens, quite enough to keep moving. I think it goes a little bit lighter here, 2 a.m. If we go more towards sunrise tomorrow, then the wind comes back. And in fact, even the Meltemi tomorrow is projected to be strong, even along this leg from Mykonos toward the Attican coast. So what that indicates is for everybody out here in this part of the race course, they're going to have a really nice night of sailing tonight, and then certainly on their final approach into the finish tomorrow. So for the fast boats, like Optimum 3 here has a crown over their icon of the boat. That means in corrected time, they're leading. The crown, as you can see, whoops, if I can keep that there. If you see where the crown icon is at the bottom of that box, it says first in ORC. So in ORC scoring, they're currently leading or projected to be leading. But we'll see, because if these guys here go fast or go faster and make up some of that time because they have more wind than Optimum 3 had in the same course area, then it's possible they could whittle away at that lead and regain a corrected time lead that some of them had, both in ORC and IRC, earlier in the race. For these guys here, way down here, these are pretty slow boats, but they are around the corner at Rhodos. They are starting to make their way up these legs of the course. And I think it looks like at each one of these legs, except maybe for the extreme over here in the Turkish coast, they're going to have good breeze. It's almost all a fetch. Now, this would indicate tonight that might be an upwind angle right now. If we go back to what's going on now, you can see that wind right now is more northwesterly. It is projected to shift north, so that's going to turn this fetching leg of a reach into an upwind leg for probably these guys down here and maybe these guys here. So that's not great news, but it's a pretty short beat. Then they'll go on a reach over, once this breeze shifts right, there'll be more on a reach here and more on a reach here, which could be interesting because it could shift far enough right that they're not just headsail reaching, maybe they're even spinnaker reaching. So relative to the other guys, it's possible for them to maybe gain some in corrected time as well. Now, so that's our summary for now. However, I did want to talk a little bit about scoring. The IRC system has one single number that's used for all races, distance races, buoy races, and everything. So that's fairly simple. There's no real variations there. However, IRC, if I can bring this into the frame, has a variety of different scoring options, and it's up to the organizers to choose. The very basic ones are windward, leeward, and that's self-explanatory. It's 50% upwind, 50% downwind, like you would use in a buoy race. And then the simplest offshore option is called all-purpose. And that's what's being used here in the AEGEAN 600 for the all-purpose, the determination of the all-purpose scoring model is according to this matrix here in the middle of this page. So it's basically percentages that are calculated of the boat's speed in 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 20 knots of wind according to these percentages. And as you can see, 5, 10, 20, 30, and then going back down 20, 10, 5 is almost a bell curve, a kind of Gaussian distribution of a percentage of these wind speeds. And then for wind angles, the model assumes it's an equal mix of all wind angles. So an equal amount of reaching, running, and beating is incorporated in this model. And then, of course, the open question is, well, did everybody experience all those angles and all those wind direction in exactly this amount? And the answer, of course, is no. Nothing ever replicates this exactly. However, it's a good enough average that race organizers feel that it's a good representation of a typical offshore race. And I think if we look at what we saw here in the AEGEAN 600 this year, certainly all these wind speeds were seen. Maybe it averaged out to be around 12 knots. Maybe that was the highest percentage of all the different wind speeds. And certainly a good variety of wind angles were represented. We had some downwind legs where there was VMG sailing, for example, down from Santorini to Kassos. For a lot of boats, that was a downwind leg. And then plenty of short upwind legs, and also a lot of reaching. So, you know, this I think is a pretty good representation of what these boats sailed on this race course. Anyway, that's our show for now. I want invite everybody to use the website as a resource. There's great photos there, videos there, social media is there, and you're going to start seeing race results as well. They're posted on the website and will be updated as these boats finish. So in the next few hours, we'll get Optimum here across the finish line over here to the west in Cape Sunyo. And then there'll be a fairly long delay. At this distance I looked at earlier, it's about 110 miles between the lead boat over here, Eros, which is a Pogo 50 from France, and Optimum. So certainly we'll see if Pogo can whittle away at that. Probably not going to be in actual speed, but certainly maybe in corrected time. They can close the gap. So that's it for now. So long, and we'll look forward to having you tomorrow. Join us again at day 4 of the AEGEAN 600.